Pashinyan and Putin discuss prisoners of war, a COVID-19 tragedy in a Yerevan hospital, and the Young Turks changed their name because of its association with the Armenian genocide. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sovereign Artsakh. I'm Michael Gavlak, a Hollywood producer focused on all things Armenia and Armenian. And let me remind you that if you care at all about Soghomon Tehlirian, the assassin of the architect of the Armenian genocide, then you are in the right place. At the end of this episode, I'm going to be giving you exclusive information you won't get anywhere else because I actually have the rights to his life story, and I've been researching it. And in the next few weeks and months, I'm going to be talking about what was going on in Soghomon's life 100 years ago today. But you have to wait till the end of this episode. All right. Before I move on and read some of these news articles, please share this channel, share this video, and subscribe yourself if you haven't already, and press the like button. The like button actually helps the algorithm quite a bit. Let's just read. Pashinyan has begun, I guess, a series of meetings with Vladimir Putin. Those of you who have been following the recent Karabakh War understand that on November 9th, 2020, a trilateral agreement was signed between Russia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan. However, Azerbaijan has not been abiding by the terms of that agreement, and so the negotiations continue. Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan says there is no misinterpretation between the leaders of Armenia and Russia in terms of solving the issue of Armenian prisoners of war who are held captive in Azerbaijan. Quote, I want to highlight your contribution to the stabilization of the situation in our region, especially after the war. I want to state that there is a very important issue in this context which is not solved yet. The talk concerns the issues of the prisoners of war, hostages, and other detained persons. As we have repeatedly discussed, all hostages, prisoners of war, and other detained persons must be returned to homeland according to the November 9th statement. Unfortunately, we still have detained persons in Azerbaijan. I am very happy that we do not have a misunderstanding in solving this issue, Pashinyan said at the meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow. So hopefully Moscow can put some pressure on Azerbaijan to begin abiding by the agreement that they've all signed off on. I have my doubts. All right, let's move on to, a 72-year-old coronavirus patient dead after jumping out of Yerevan hospital window. It's a sad case, and I don't talk much about coronavirus, but I have two short articles I want to address here. But this is a 72-year-old COVID-19 patient has died after jumping out of a hospital window in Yerevan, the healthcare ministry said. This article doesn't say how high the window it was, but it seems like it was an intentional, suicide, a successful suicide. The man had numerously refused medical treatment in the hospital, even after numerous meetings with psychologists, according to the healthcare ministry. The patient's body was found early Wednesday morning. The authorities did not specify at which hospital the incident took place. People are working at the scene to determine the circumstances of the incident. Law enforcement authorities have yet commented. So the guy didn't want a person, doesn't say if it was a he or she, didn't accept treatment. I don't know. Must be. My understanding is it's pretty devastating for elderly patients, that the effects of this virus on breathing. But they also mention a couple of psychological. Met with a few psychologists, so it may have nothing to do with the actual suffering of the suffering from the virus. It's tragic. But there's another news coronavirus news that I wanted to mention. The United States provides additional $1 million to support vaccination efforts in Armenia. So I won't read this article, but brings our total contributions to Armenia to $11 million to help Armenia. So we're helping. The United States is stepping in and helping Armenia. I'm sure we're helping in a lot of places, but since we are focused on Armenia, and I am American from the United States, this is relevant to me and our channel. Finally, I thought this was interesting when I came across this. Young Turks changing its name amid associations with Armenian genocide. Those of you who are unfamiliar with the details of the history of the Armenian genocide, the Christian massacre, the Christian Holocaust of World War I, where 2 million Christians were massacred by the Ottoman Turks, the governing party of the Ottoman Empire were the Young Turks. The Young Turks is the name of their political organization. And it was 1.5 million Armenians, hundreds of thousands of Greeks and Assyrians, all being of Christian faith. Now, let me just read this. British independent record label Young Turks. Okay, so when I first saw Young Turks are changing their name, I thought, oh, it's the news organization, Cenk Uygur, or I guess it's a news. I thought, oh, wow, they're really facing the facts. They actually have an Armenian commentator. I forget her name, but it's like, oh, they're facing the fact that they've picked a name that is associated. Essentially, it's like saying a group calling themselves Nazis today. It's like the Nazis, we're going to be the Nazis, but not affiliating it, the National Socialists or whatever, that like National Socialism, that's a good thing. We'll call ourselves the Nazis, but not realizing, like somebody that's so ignorant of the details of World War II that they would pick that name. Well, that's the equivalent here. This is the equivalent. Calling yourself the Young Turks is the equivalent of calling yourself Nazis, except it's associated with World War I and a different genocide. All right. So let me just read this. This is not Cenk Uygur and the Young Turks. It's something else. British independent record label Young Turks removed the word Turks from its name due to its association with the organizers of the Armenian genocide in the Ottoman Empire. The Young Turks, The Guardian reported. The Young Turks are a group of intellectuals. So this is the Young Turks are and were a group of intellectuals and revolutionaries that emerged amid tensions in the Ottoman Empire in the early 20th century. They proclaimed as their goal the overthrow of the absolutist regime of Sultan Abdul Hamid, the convening of a multinational parliament, a return to the Constitution of 1876, and the implementation of liberal reforms in the Ottoman Empire. The Young Turks became the main organizers of the Armenian and Assyrian genocide in the mid-90s, or mid-1910s. All right, up until that last line there, it's true. The Young Turks, they were like, we want to overthrow the absolutist regime of the Sultan. And the Armenian Revolutionary Federation and other Armenian groups partnered with the Young Turks in this overthrow of the Sultan. However, once that new government was set up in 1908, the Young Turks proceeded to use and abuse that relationship with the Armenians to essentially remove them from the face of the earth. Caius Pawson, who founded the Young Turks record label in 2005 after running a club night of the same name, or a nightclub of the same name, said he had originally named it after the Rod Stewart song and said it evoked the solidarity of youth. It seemed to perfectly sum up what we were, teenagers wanting and waiting to do something, anything. However, we were unaware of the deeper history of the meaning. Good on them. Now Cenk Uygur needs to do the same. All right. Enough of this. Let's go back. Now it's time to talk about our friend Sogomon Tehlirian. All right. Now, tomorrow being April 8th, tomorrow's a significant day in this story of Sogomon Tehlirian. So tomorrow, well, let me tell you right now why tomorrow is a significant day. Sogomon was in a jail cell from March 15th. So this is 100 years ago today, 100 years ago this month. Today's April 7th, tomorrow being April 8th. So 100 years ago on March 15th, Sogomon assassinated Talat Pasha in a street in Berlin, was subsequently mobbed. He was beaten by a mob of bystanders, and the police rescued him from that beating and threw him in jail and then put him in prison, and he awaited trial, and the trial would be on June 2nd and 3rd, so that's coming up, the 100-year anniversary of Sogomon's trial. Now, why is tomorrow an important day? Well, Sogomon sat in his jail cell, acclimating himself to his new environment, wondering what his fate would be, and replaying in his head over and over again what had led him to this point. It was on April 8th that he was provided, I believe he says specifically, 10 sheets of paper and a pencil for the first time after sitting in jail for 3 weeks, roughly 3 weeks. And he began to write immediately. And he describes it as they gave him a cup of coffee, some paper, and a pencil. And he snatched up the paper and pencil and completely forgot about the coffee and just wrote and wrote and wrote. And tomorrow I will read you page 1. And for the next few days, I'll read excerpts from the prison diary. Now, he wrote his whole entire memoir, and we have it translated, and it's going to be published. But the prison diary is separate from that. And there are a few discrepancies between the memoir and the prison diary, but nothing significant. But tomorrow I'm going to read the very first page of his prison diary, and it's riveting stuff. So tune in tomorrow. All right, everybody, share this, subscribe, and click the like button now.